somewhere in Japan, they made the film Tokyo Story, and the director is called Yasujiro Ozu. So I'm gonna call him Ozu. He watched the film Make Way for Tomorrow from 1937, American movie. And he was inspired. That film is based on a novel by Josephine Lawrence. But he was inspired by the film, by watching the film. And so in 1953 he made a film. And I ended up watching this not knowing that this was one of the number one directors for a number one film from Japan. So I was watching it actually without the cultural knowledge behind it. I also didn't know it was inspired by the Make Way for Tomorrow. So I watched that one as well after I watched Tokyo Story. And I can see the inspiration, but I would not say it's a fanfic. I would not say it's a remake of any sort. I would say that the inspiration was, we have an elderly couple, retired in this case, in the Japanese version. And it's now 1953. And it is Japan, and it's Tokyo where the children are. Because in the American film, they were all in New York City. At least it's heavily implied that they were in New York City. And the parents were living outside, let's call it New York State. In Tokyo Story, the parents are living in Onomichi village in western Japan. I think village, at least it has a primary school, but it is far, far away. The train trips that they take are like a day and a half, 2 days. On the way back, the train trip is too long for the wife of the couple. So the husband is called Shukichi, and the wife's called Tomi. And so for Tomi, on the way back, it's too long and they have to take a breather and just stay over somewhere before they continue their journey. It's that long. The other part that is still the same as the Make Way for Tomorrow film is that they have 5 children. But in this case, one of their sons is actually dead because the World War II happened. And Shukichi meets up with an old friend in Tokyo in the middle of the film, and they discuss, actually two men of the same age, and they discuss their children. Now in Make Way for Tomorrow, there's also Bark strikes up a friendship with somebody running a convenience store or local shop, and that's a similar demographic aged guy. And they discuss children, so they do the same here. But these Japanese men say to each other, who do you still have? Because all of them have had children die in Second World War. This friend, 2 sons were killed. And so he says, you're lucky, you have 5 children, only 1 son killed. And you have a lot of children left. So that's a markedly different situation that these people are living in. And there's not a lot that is actually discussed about Second World War, it's not even mentioned. But that is overshadowing everything that happens in this film. Because we're in 1953, it's post-war Japan. And culture has changed. Now, I was trying to look up whether there are some markers to hang it up on. And in 1948, there was some decree from above, and I don't pretend to know how it's all exactly put together, but that they were going to do a cultural shift. And you see that, I think, in this film. I think that's what they're trying to comment on, is the cultural shift. The young people, and not even that young, his children, if he's 70, because his wife Tomi is 68 in the film. That's the one that we know for sure. So if she stopped having kids at 40, her youngest is 27 or 28 years old. But the eldest could be as much as 48. And very likely so. I mean, why not? You know, they would have gotten married in the 1890s. So nobody would wait to have kids at that time. You know, you get married, you have children. Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's from the perspective of Shukichi and Tomi together as they prepare to go to Tokyo to see all their kids. Except for the son that died. But he has a widow, and she's a young woman, Noriko, and so they can also see her. And the fact that they go on a trip clearly inconveniences all the kids. And that's is the blurb that you see about this film, is they're going to visit them all, but the kids have no time for the parents. Well, the kids at this point have children, have careers. All the women are working. There is not one woman in this film, except for Tomi, who is of course a retired older lady, that isn't working. So it isn't like there's a culture of the women stay at home with the kids. Zero culture of that. And
in Japan, everybody worked always.
Yeah, and they're working the whole time. So one set of children are living in or above the salon that the woman has, the beauty salon. And then the guy goes out to work, and the woman is there, and the kids are being raised there, and there's a lot of tatami mats. A lot of sleeping rolls that get folded out and put in. They sleep on the elevated area of the shop at night. That's where the parents of the people who run the shop are sleeping.
That's the only dry, warm place. Always.
It'll be warmer because it's higher. Yeah,
it's warmer. It's higher.
But there's not like a bedroom. There's a bedroom, but the kids are in there.
But you don't need any more bedroom because the tatami mats, the tatami is very insulating. So you are off the ground already because you're on a platform, and then the tatami mats make sure you're cozy and warm.
Yeah. And just the concept of the parents need their own bedroom just doesn't exist in it. That's not what things are set up for. And if I'm being told Tokyo is got very, very small places to the apartments, the houses, etc. Expect small. I'm from the Netherlands, so I don't expect large to begin with. People are sleeping in their living rooms. So they go from child, which is of course a fully fledged adult with a life and kids and work, to another. And then a couple of the adult children, Shige and Koichi, I think it's Koichi. Koichi is the oldest son and Shige is the oldest daughter. And Shige is being portrayed as quite a bitch, actually. But I don't know. I think by Western standards it's not so bitchy.
If she just tells her mind and.
Yeah, she's just busy with her life and she's running everything and she needs to get on with things. Yeah, I mean, she might be getting on with things a little faster than everybody would like. But I think bitch is a little excessive. And halfway through the film, where she's got the father staying with her, and he comes home drunk, and she reveals that, yeah, he was doing that when she was a kid, and she hated it then, and she hates it now. So I can understand that she's a bit short with everything, if she had, serious issues growing up. So it just kind of shows that, yes, everybody is smiling. There's an awful lot of smiling. Especially all the women are smiling every single moment the camera's on them. I'm sure the rest of the time as well. But the only time there's one of the girls or one of the women is not smiling, that is Kyoko, the youngest daughter, when she is voicing true concerns over how the older siblings have treated the parents, to Noriko, which is the grieving widow of one of the sons. And that's when she's not smiling, but Noriko is smiling. And I do think that smiling means something else in Japan than it does your general have a nice day. Although Have a Nice Day smile is also not an actual smile. It is a greeting with body attitude, body language used to create a certain feeling. And there's a culture of the worse things are, the more you smile in Japan, because that gives allows people to not feel too sorry for you, because then you can't actually get on with your day. Whether that is why these people are smiling, I don't know. And of course not for every time that they're smiling. But you can see it with Noriko, because Tomi comes to stay with her by herself when at some point they get divided amongst people. And all she has is the one room. She lives in a room, and down the hall there is washing up facilities and kitchen facilities. And so that's it. She has the room. So her mother-in-law can offer her a bedroll on the floor, on more tatami mats in the room, and they actually, you can see that was the best time that Tomi had there, because they had a lovely heart-to-heart. Tomi immediately impresses upon Noriko that you should go, feel free to look for another husband. It's been so many years. It's been 8 years. You know, it's 1953, so we know, they don't even have to say it. We know that it has been 8 or more years. And Noriko has some chance. If she was 18 then, she's in her 20s, in her late 20s now, mid-20s. Maybe in the 1950s they were thinking if she hits 30, that's too late. Then she's an old spinster and nobody will want her. I don't know. That was certainly true in the West. So it is a question of, we love you as a daughter. You should feel free to go look for a husband. And I think that was really, really kind. And you can see at that point that Noriko wasn't waiting for the approval of the in-laws. Although that I did actually see that in some reviews. But I don't think that was why she's waiting. She's smiling and her face is just cringing. Like, no, I don't think I can. This was the love of my life. How can I go look for someone else? My life is effectively over, but I'm still here. My life with him is over. And that's a beautifully acted, a beautiful touch to put in the film, and whether it's the actress or the actual writing. Later at the end of the film, Shukichi says it again to her when Tomi has died, because his wife dies towards the end of the film. And of course you have the foreshadowing of Tomi starting to feel not so well. This is when they were at the, let's call it a spa resort, because Shige and Koichi, the two busy children, a doctor and a beautician, got together. It's like, oh no, this is too uncomfortable. We've got too much going on. And again, there was this evening affair that Shige had to organize, which in the film Make Way for Tomorrow, the daughter-in-law had a bridge class that she was teaching to high earners or maybe people at leisure. So they literally did have to have people out of the house for the evening because they needed the place. So they sent Shige and Koichi sent Shukichi. I have to look at the names because it's a little bit too many names. Shukichi and Tomi to a spa resort. And you think, oh, that sounds good. And I love the attitude that Shukichi and Tomi have, because at every moment they're sitting there. So everybody's on the floor always. They're always sitting on the floor. The camera is also, they called it the tatami mat camera, I think. Is that it is from that level, from the floor. So even if you're looking towards people are standing, you're looking up with the camera. Which is a very interesting choice. So everything is from that level. And they're always sitting and they're using their fans because it's summer in Tokyo. Using the fans and they're going, isn't this wonderful? And then they sort of talk back and forth. It's like, oh no, we're good with this. We're good with this. And I thought it was a really interesting way of showing courage, resignation, trying to make the best of things. They've been through literally everything and back already, 2 world wars, and the advent of all the technology that brought them, and new culture that they were never raised with. So there's not really any time that Shukichi and Tomi feel or seem to feel to want to rebel against anything. They're not saying our children shouldn't be like this. They shouldn't be pursuing this modern rat race life. They're saying, no, this is how it is. And how are we going to do the next step? We're okay right now. I'm just like making everything okay. Until they're like, they can't sleep at the resort because the resort is in Tokyo. Well, it's on the seaside, but Tokyo is very large. And it's being used by all these young people partying all night long. Yeah. That's it. It was just not a winnable thing, I think. I mean, it sounded so good. Oh, they're going to send them to like a seaside and a spa and stuff. It's just, it's the wrong place. And I don't know if there would have been a right place because all the young people were going to Tokyo and all the older people are in their Onomichi village somewhere outside, you know. They're, yeah. They just...
Yeah, and there is no solution for it as such, because I do know Japan has a problem of the countryside emptying of young people going to the town, to Tokyo, and nobody coming back. So this is the start of that. It's not getting better.
And this was happening all over the Western world as well. In Italy, people were emigrating and they were going to the big cities and they weren't coming back to the villages. This was happening all over. I mean, in the Netherlands, not so much because it's just a teeny tiny country. How far can you go?
In Italy, they're solving the problem by actually giving you a stipend if you go back to live in the old villages. Which I think probably Japan should start doing that if they're not doing that already. Because Japan is the Netherlands is small, but Japan and Italy are both pretty big, and
with hills and mountains.
And so you're hours and hours away. So just pay people to go live in unfashionable places.
There's a couple of times that you see Shukichi and Tomi walking. And I do think that Tomi is walking 3 steps behind him. But it is filmed so that it is not clear whether that is just happenstance or systematic. So at the resort, then they're sitting in the morning, they're by the waterside, and they decide that this was a good try and it was worthwhile, but let's just go home early. And I thought at that point they're actually going home, but they didn't mean that. They meant going to Tokyo. So when they actually turn up in the beauty salon in Tokyo, I was a bit surprised because I literally was expecting them to go home. So home is a relative term, I guess, when you're spending a long... I suppose they were intending to spend the entire summer. I've never really led a life where spending the entire summer somewhere was a thing, so I'm not quite sure if that is a thing. But I think so. So then maybe they're expecting to spend 2-3 months, but then I can understand that the parents have problems. Also at the same time, the kids who also have kids. At the same time, you have these grandchildren, and they are just modern young grandchildren, and no reaction of the grandparents at any time is that they expect them to be anything else. So if they're being bad boys and misbehaving, they're taking that in stride. The mother sometimes tries to discipline them, but other than that, there's not there's no strict regime going on there from above. The Shukichi and Tomi are just effectively glad to be there, and they're trying to just go through the motions. So there is a point where everybody has given up and said, okay, we cannot make this work. So, and everybody's had a go. So they're sending them back and taking them to the train early.
To their old town.
Yeah, to actually go home to Onomichi. Before that happens, Noriko takes the two of them on a tour through Tokyo, and that's absolutely lovely to see because they are going on a tour bus and they're going to look at everything, and they go up and in things and show Tokyo as it is in 1953, which is completely different from the images of Tokyo that you get now. And at that point it was like super technologically advanced and all the new buildings going up. So it was really cool.
70 years ago.
It's so long. Yeah. It's, oh my goodness. Shukichi puts on a suit and tie, but Tomi is always in a kimono of one sort or another. Their night clothes is also a kimono. Just to see how things are done. I mean, that's why I also enjoy watching films, Hollywood films from the 30s and 40s and 50s, is that you get to see how they did actually things. If it's contemporary films and they're trying to show how cool now is, or sometimes how ragged now is, it's like, oh, that's really interesting, because what is normal for them? So, yeah. As you get to see some of that in this as well. And also, like, you go in and out of the houses. There's not at any time do we see a view of a kitchen. It's just never a camera that is set to look into a kitchen, which is an interesting choice by the director Ozu. Because I would have put a camera in the kitchen. Because I would have expected Tomi to come into the kitchen and offer to help or something like that. And then you have a scene there with the women, but none of that. It's just sort of like the main area, whether it's living room or not.
And food just appears.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a huge amount of food scenes. There's a scene where they order food in. This is when Noriko orders food in because she doesn't have a kitchen. And she's not set up to make food for two more adults. So when she takes them out on the town, she also takes them home, and then she ordered food for them. And that's also, it's just, and it's just like, at that point you're going, oh, I wish this was in color. Because you just want to see everything in color. That's a shame, but it can't be helped. It's a nice restoration of the film. I mean, everything's clean images. What I also think with the direction is that the times that the director kind of tells you, oh, they're sitting here and they're looking out the window, you don't get the view out the window, which is a shame. I really would like to see out the window. He might not
have had it available.
Yeah.
That's why he's doing it like that.
Yeah, at the very end, Shukichi looks out the window, and he's inside, looks out the window, and you're going, well, I would have seen that all this time if you had shown me. But last time they do show, and they said there's a boat going down the river. So he's actually got a view from his own house on the river, and there's a boat. But kind of like fitting the view into what you think you would be seeing is like it doesn't fit. Not like we're used to. And another thing, when they are talking to each other, you got two talking heads with two positions like that, then you're used to this with the cameras. He doesn't do that either. And that was remarked on in some of the Wikipedia, or one of the places that I was doing research on it, is that he did that on purpose.
He messed the film shorthand up.
No, but he did it on purpose, yeah. He's like, that's not what I want to say. Okay. I don't know what he did want to say, but that's how he decided to do it. So the kind of like the way we're used to looking at films, because we've been trained to do it that way, he's messing with that. I don't think it is very disturbing because it's not all the time. I think the low down camera angles from the tatami mats onto what's happening is really, really nice. I really like it because if people are sitting down, around the table, you want to feel like you're sitting down around the table. So if they're sitting on the floor, by all means, put it on the mats, and so that everybody is, you're face to face with the people who are experiencing things and are talking. Shukichi and Tomi are very pleasant as point of view characters. They're really friendly. They're well-meaning. They are courageous, but they are also they not much is required of them. But if you add it all up, it's actually really, really difficult, the situation they're in. They are retired and they're self-sufficient, and that's a massive difference with the film that it was inspired on. The Make Way for Tomorrow, where the big crux of the story was that the parents had no retirement. There was no state retirement and there was no private pension plan. And Shukichi and Tomi, they have a house. They can stay there. They're fine. They have their youngest daughter with Kyoko living with them. And I did the calculations at the beginning of this. Is like, okay, Kyoko has to be at least 27 years old. If we assume that Tomi doesn't have kids beyond the age of after the age of 14. So Kyoko is not super young or anything. She could be married, but she isn't. And so she's living with the parents, and that's just fine. And then Tomi dies at the way towards the end of the film, and you think, oh, okay, now that's the end of the movie. But it's not, because now comes out the feelings of especially the youngest son, that he's just been ignoring the parents because he was busy I think he was on the road of being a salesman or something like that. I mean, they're all living this modern American style lives because that's the age they're living in and that was required of them, and they're doing it. But that means they don't have time to be at home in Onomichi, or so far away from the big city, to call in on the parents all the time. So he got a wire saying he needed to come, but he wasn't there, or a letter, and he wasn't there. So he got home, then he had to get on the train, then he got there, and his mother had died. So it's like an emotional crisis for that boy. So it's not just addressing how hard it is on these aging parents. It's also addressing that to live the life like that is also hard on everybody involved. It's hard on Noriko because she lost her husband and she can't move on from that. And it's hard on the younger son Keizo, because he was doing what was required of him. He was running around and doing all the stuff, and boom, his mom is dead. So he missed it. So some of them have this emotional anguish of, I wasn't even a good kid. In the film Make Way for Tomorrow, the 4 siblings, the 4 kids, get together at the end where they miss putting their parents on a train, or putting the dad on a train, and they're saying, yeah, we suck as kids. They just outright say it. And I think they did suck a bit, but in Tokyo Story I don't think they sucked. I think they are all trying to live up to what's required of them. And if you do it with attitude, like Shige, the oldest daughter, okay, well, she has temperament, she has attitude, that's fine. If you do it with a smile, trying to grin through everything, like Noriko, who's bereaved widow and has no children, and that's probably also a very sad thing for her. And you got the youngest son who's like, oops, that got away from me. Can I have a do-over? No, you cannot. And there's the youngest daughter who lives with them, Kyoko, who gets upset over this. They are bad children. And then Noriko says, no, they're not. You think that because you're not in their position. And that may be the message of the film, is like they're all in their own positions in life. And it's not something I was thinking that during watching the film is you cannot control the passage of time. That's the one thing everybody has to just, give yourself over to. Time just passes, and it's gonna pass. And whether you're 10 or you're 25 or you're 70, this film is a comment on that. Is that you are in your time, and not in the time after you, and not in the time before you. So yeah, you can try to understand and have empathy for other people's positions, and you should absolutely do that. But maybe they're trying to say, try not to judge too harshly, because you're not in that position. Walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, but you can't do that. So yeah, try. There's an awful lot of smiling, and that annoyed me a bit. But for the rest of it, I didn't feel the film was slow. I mean, yes, it was slow, but I don't think it was too slow to watch it. Because what I'm seeing in reviews is that most people only watch it because they're studying film analysis or something like that. And it's like, well, if a movie is known to be the best movie of a body of work of a national famed director, is like, no, it should be a little bit more than that. So I don't think you have to wait until you start studying film analysis to watch this film. You do have to have 2.5 hours and just have a cup of tea or coffee. I prefer tea. And then just watch the people, because I think this is a people watching film.
How was the translation, the subtitles?
The subtitles were good. Yeah, I didn't have a problem. It's like every once in a while you go, would I say that? Not that I understood the Japanese, but it's like, would you say that? Would I say that if I were to write that line or something like that? And it's like, okay, interesting choice. So whether that's a translation or the original, translations are always difficult if you don't have an actual grasp of the language you're listening to, because translations can help you, and then you go, okay, that was spot on, but that was a little off. There's always going to be that. So I just don't know Japanese.
But it made sense.
It's a good translation. I found the movie on Plex. So it's on Plex. And it'll be on other places. I recommend watching it. It's I really would have loved it if it was in color, but you can't expect that. It's the Netherlands wasn't making movies in color at that time. So there's no information about. Yes, there's information about how well it did, but it's information I can't parse, because there's no information on how much it cost to make the film, and the information on how much it actually how well it did at the box office was counted in seats, not in yen or
bumps on seats.
Yes. Not in yen, not in guilders, and not in
how many bumps on
dollars.
Seats go per dollar, per yen, per pound.
So I don't know. It came out in Japan, and then it came out in Europe, where there's also a seat count, and it did not come out in the US until the early 70s, because it was deemed too Japanese for the US. I don't know if that's code for we don't want to see it, but it is a beautiful film, and it should have been watched by everybody in the world in the 50s. And if you're not in the 50s, you're in the now. You can watch it now.
Yay!
I would highly recommend it. The acting is amazing. The direction is interesting. The interiors, a lot of interiors, so many scenes. There's stuff I've skipped. And just go sit and watch it. It's just it's a really good film, and that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.